Welcome back. Well, more now on what is becoming an increasingly bitter fight in the federal Liberal Party in Saskatchewan that we've been telling you about. At stake is the party nomination in the March 17th by-election in the northern riding of Desnethe-Missinippi-Churchill River. Always have trouble with that. The dispute started after Liberal leader Stephane Dion appointed a former provincial NDP cabinet minister named Joan Beatty to be his party's candidate. Local Liberals cried foul. They wanted a regular nominating meeting to pick the candidate. Well, David Orchard is one of the people who wanted to run and is at the center of the controversy. Another is Ralph Goodale, the Liberal MP and former finance minister, who supports the Beatty appointment. Well, yesterday on this broadcast, Goodale said Orchard and other potential candidates knew Dion might appoint someone to run for the Liberals.
Right from the very beginning, the leader indicated what his priority would be. His priority would be a female candidate, a resident of the riding, and a person who actually was of Aboriginal heritage. If a person of that caliber could be found that otherwise met all of the qualifications to be a candidate, that was the objective of the so-called Green Light Committee, the Campaign Readiness Committee, in searching out candidates. And in fact, everybody who took out nomination papers to pursue the nomination signed a statutory declaration indicating that they acknowledged the leader's right to designate a candidate other than themselves. And Mr. Dion's priority for women in politics has been obvious right from the very beginning.
So how does what Ralph Goodale is saying sit with David Orchard? To find out, we're going to Saskatoon because there is David Orchard. David Orchard, how are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Don.
So basically, Ralph Goodale says you and the others who are not happy with the appointment of Ms. Beatty are blowing smoke. That did you actually take out papers yourself to run, or do you just know people? You did.
Oh yes, I was running, campaigning hard for 3 months.
Yeah.
In the riding.
And so, did you sign a statutory declaration saying you accepted that Mr. Dion could appoint someone if that was his decision?
Well, the standard declaration is there that the leader, all the powers of the Constitution, the leader has the power to appoint a candidate. I never quibbled with that. In fact, it was because I was assured that the appointment wouldn't be used. I was asked to run. You know, I was taken down to Stornoway in the early summer, a 3-hour session with the Saskatchewan caucus where I was asked, urged, and repeatedly asked to run. And I thought about it for a while, and I phoned back and told the leader, yes, I would run. And then when this riding came open, I was first told that there was a desire to have an Aboriginal female, so I just stood aside and waited. And then as time went by, then I was told they couldn't find any Aboriginal female. Mr. Goodale told me that. I was urged to run. The national co-chair assured me 6 times it would be an open nomination race. Mr. Goodale introduced me in Saskatoon here in October as a candidate. The leader told me to work hard to win the nomination, and I did so. I never asked for any favors. I never asked for a nomination. I worked in good faith to win the riding, as did another candidate, by the way, an Aboriginal man named John Dorian, who worked very hard to win the nomination.
Okay, so I understand. When you first went down to Stornoway and met with Mr. Dion, you were asked to run, but not necessarily in this riding. In fact, this riding was held by the Liberals at the time, so that's right. I take it you were going to run in some other riding than this one. Is that,
yes.
Do I have that right?
You have that right. They wanted me to run in Saskatchewan. That's not an easy thing to do, as you know, but I agreed to do it, and the party actually spent, I think, some $8,000 polling to find a good riding for me. But then when Gary stepped down, then, of course, I have a farm in the riding, and I was interested in Mr. Goodale talking about residents of the riding. I have a 2,000-acre farm there. My maternal grandparents are buried in a cemetery there, so I certainly have a connection to this riding, and I worked very hard to win it, as I mentioned.
Okay, so the time is going by, so I want to make sure I nail this down.
Sure.
So you were going to run somewhere else. Did you know, was that identified? Might you still run there or not?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, so this opens up, and then you think that they're going to name an Aboriginal woman, so you don't come forward right away as a candidate. And then are you approached to be the candidate when they don't have the person they're looking for?
Well, actually, I had a conversation with Mr. Goodale in which he encouraged me very much to run. He said, we don't have an Aboriginal female, so let's get on with it.
Okay, and then you said you talked to the National Campaign co-chair. Which co-chair was that?
Yes, Mr. Mark Marison,
Okay.
several times, who assured me that there would be a timely process and there would be enough time for the nomination race and there would be no appointment.
Okay, so then did anybody come to you at some point and say, now look, there's been a provincial election, Joan Beatty looks like she's available, we want her instead? Did someone...
Not at all. It came out of the blue. As I mentioned, I was urged to work hard. I campaigned to cross the north, 20,000 kilometers on my vehicle, signed up hundreds of people. And if I can mention, Don, you know, we're often told that Aboriginal people are apathetic or they're not participating. They signed up by the hundreds and participated in this process. One gentleman from Canoe Narrows, Joe Iron, 93 years old, took a membership. That was the kind of response all over the riding.
Okay, so now, again, to interrupt, and I apologize, Mark Marison was Mr. Dion's campaign manager in the Liberal leadership, and you supported Mr. Dion, so did you worked, as I understand it, with Mark Marison then, is that right?
Yes, I worked hard, delivered 150 delegates to Mr. Dion's winning campaign, and yes, worked with Mr. Marison on that too.
Okay, so what's going to happen now?
Well, I'm working hard to win this riding. You know,
well, but Ms. Beatty has been named by the leader, and whether you like it or not, it seems to me that he has the power to do that, and so... Are you going to run as an independent against her? Or?
No, Don, I'm working hard to rebuild the Liberal Party. You know, for too long, political parties in Canada have operated as private clubs. They've got tremendous powers and rights under our taxation system, under our system of law. They also have duties and responsibilities to enhance democracy. And I'm working hard to change the old boys type club. And what happens when you got something on high coming in and simply kiboshing that, it puts a halt, an immediate halt to the whole process of rebuilding. Let's be frank here in Saskatchewan. For years we've had one member of Parliament federally. The Liberals have no members in the provincial legislature. We've got a big task to rebuild the Liberal Party to make it a viable option, an alternative to Mr. Harper.
Okay, but this riding did go in the last election Liberal by about 100 votes. It seems to me, without knowing much about the Saskatchewan Liberal Party, that if you're going to have this internal fight, David Orchard, it's going to be very difficult for Liberals to win the by-election on the 17th of March.
Well, Don, if I can tell you, it's not David Orchard. This is much bigger than me. This is the residents. As you know, the majority of the residents in this riding are Aboriginal. The chiefs, the Métis leaders, the mayors have all spoken out in a major way. These people have asked to be consulted. They've asked to be treated in a democratic way. They're buying memberships, and they don't want those memberships simply thrown away. They want a right to participate in a democratic way, and that's what they've been asking for over and over again, is that not to be told from on high or from Ottawa who is going to be their candidate, but the right to elect that candidate in a democratic fashion.
And if there was a nominating meeting, you would run, and if Ms. Beatty ran, this is about in 2 seconds, you think you could beat her?
Well, I would try my best. I've signed up people all over the riding. I would work hard. I want to be a voice for that riding, and many people have asked me to be exactly that. So I'd be happy to run against Miss Beatty.
Got it. David, I got to stop you there. Time goes so quickly. But David Orchard, thanks for coming on. Talk to you again soon, I'm sure.
You're welcome.